Let's talk for a few minutes about you. When were you born? What month? What minute? What day? You don't remember the actual moment, do you? But you were there. A doctor delivered you, or a midwife, perhaps in a hospital or at home. At some point, you were born, and you've always celebrated your birthday on that day. But that's not really when you began. You were alive before that in your mother's womb, growing. You were tiny. Your entire hand was once smaller than your tiny fingernail. That's incredible, but that was you. So, when did you begin? On your due date? When you were born? You had to have been you before that. How about when you were 7 months old? Or 24 weeks? Or 10 weeks? 20 days? 1 day? You were you all the way back to that one moment of fertilization. That's when you became you. That's when all your DNA locked. In fact, if you take one piece of your hair right now, the DNA strands that you will find in that piece of hair are exactly the same DNA as they were at that moment of fertilization. That's incredible. And that was you. You've not changed since the beginning. You are a complete continuum of being from the start. Even now, as you sit and watch this, you are an unbroken chain of you. But what if that chain had been broken? What if your mother decided to stop your life before you were born? What if she decided to not let you be? Maybe she was poor or unmarried. She was scared. She was in a very difficult situation. Perhaps she was worried about her future, about your future. Perhaps she was feeling pressure. Others were telling her what to do. Maybe the timing wasn't right. Maybe she's just too busy. You were an accident. You were a surprise. She was in college. She had things to do, so she aborted you. But you know, it hasn't always been that way. If you were born before 1969 in the United States, no one could have illegally entered your mother's womb and ended your life. Yes, she could have had an illegal abortion, but the law protected you. It recognized that you were alive inside her. But if you were born after 1969, then some states were beginning to legalize abortion, though not all. But if you were born after January 22nd, 1973, you suddenly became terribly vulnerable no matter where you were living. On that date, the U.S. Supreme Court decided that you were not a person while still in your mother's womb. She had a right to privacy. She could do with you what she wanted. She could have aborted you. Did you know that just 4 weeks after your DNA locked, your heart was beating? You had a heartbeat. But your mother could have stopped that heart. She could have stopped it by taking a series of pills, but that didn't happen to you. At 8 weeks, you were kicking and swimming, and if your mother did want to end your life, she would have to go into a clinic, and the doctor would have used a small knife or a vacuum to pull you out. But you lived past that. At week 17, you were dreaming. You were having your own dreams. To stop you, the doctor would have had to pull you apart, piece by piece, and yes, you would have felt the pain. But that didn't happen to you either. At 22 weeks, you could recognize your mother's voice. You knew your mother's voice, and you were big. If she could hold you, you would have filled up her hands. But even then, in some states, you could have been aborted in ways that are too difficult to talk about. At 22 weeks, and yes, even later. But that didn't happen to you. Nobody did that to you, but what if they had? What if somebody aborted you? You would not be. But here you are. Your mother did make a choice for you to live. But not all choices were made that way. Some choices were made quite differently. In the United States, over 50 million people were not given that choice. 50 million. That's everyone that's now living in New York City, Dallas, Atlanta, Chicago, and Los Angeles combined. Gone. They're not here. They never will be. But you are. And you go back all the way to that first moment of fertilization. You are a complete continuum of being, of you. You know that's when you began. That's how life unfolds. That's how life unfolds for you. That's how life unfolds for everybody. That is why life really does matter. Life is so important. Your life, everybody's life. And most certainly, those little lives that are still in the womb.